For years, the conventional wisdom said America would dominate artificial intelligence. Better chips, deeper talent pools, freer capital, and the leading frontier labs. That story is starting to look incomplete. China is quietly assembling advantages that matter more over the long run: raw power, manufacturing scale, cost efficiency, and the ability to keep building even when cut off from the best Western technology. Here's why many serious observers now believe China has a strong path to winning the AI race. 1. Electricity, the real currency of AI. AI is not just about clever algorithms. It is about electricity. Training and running large models requires enormous amounts of continuous power. China already generates more than twice as much electricity as the United States. In recent years, it has added capacity at a pace the US cannot match: hundreds of gigawatts annually, much of it from solar, wind, hydro, and still expanding coal and nuclear. By some estimates, China is on track to have hundreds of gigawatts of surplus capacity by the end of the decade, far more than the entire global data center fleet is expected to need. In the US, new data centers are increasingly hitting local resistance over power demand, water use, noise, and grid strain. Projects get delayed. Permitting drags. China faces far fewer of these constraints. When the limiting factor becomes, can you actually turn the chips on and keep them running, abundant, relatively cheap power becomes a decisive edge. As Jensen Huang and Elon Musk have both noted in different ways, the country that can supply the electrons wins a large part of the infrastructure race. 2. Manufacturing and the semiconductor reality. China is still the undisputed king of manufacturing. That matters more for AI than many people admit. Even with advanced chip export controls put in place during the Biden administration, China has not stopped. It has accelerated. Huawei and other domestic players are scaling production of their own AI accelerators. Huawei's Ascend line, the 910C and the newer 950 series arriving in volume in 2026, is not yet matching NVIDIA's absolute performance per chip. But China is compensating with volume, system-level engineering, large supernode clusters, and aggressive software optimization. The export controls were intended to freeze China's progress. Instead, they forced a massive domestic mobilization. Factories, packaging, interconnects, and the surrounding supply chain are being built at national scale. China does not need to match the NVIDIA chip-for-chip tomorrow. It needs enough capable silicon, at sufficient volume and acceptable cost, to train and serve models at national scale. That is exactly what it is now racing to achieve. 3. Catching the frontier at a fraction of the cost. The most striking recent development is efficiency. Moonshot AI's Kimi K3, released in mid-2026, demonstrated that Chinese labs can produce models competitive with leading US systems, including Anthropic's Fable-class models and OpenAI's latest, on many important benchmarks, while planning open-weight releases and operating at significantly lower cost. Similar progress has come from DeepSeek and others. A major part of this leap has involved distillation and related techniques, training strong models by learning from the outputs and behaviors of more advanced systems. US officials and companies have accused Chinese labs of large-scale distillation campaigns against American frontier models. Regardless of the exact methods and their legality or ethics, the outcome is clear: Chinese teams are closing the capability gap faster and more cheaply than many expected. When you can get near-frontier performance at a fraction of the training and inference cost, you change the economics of the entire race. You can deploy more widely, iterate faster, and serve more users without needing the same capital intensity. 4. The forced independence advantage. The Biden-era chip controls were meant to keep China permanently behind. In practice, they created a powerful forcing function. Chinese companies could no longer rely on the easiest path, buying the best NVIDIA hardware. So they built alternatives, optimized software stacks for domestic chips, and focused relentlessly on efficiency and scale. The result is an ecosystem that is becoming harder to disrupt from the outside. Local GPUs, local software, local energy, and local manufacturing form a closed loop that grows more self-sufficient over time. What winning actually looks like. Winning the AI race does not necessarily mean having the single most powerful model on any given benchmark in any given month. It means being able to deploy AI at massive national and industrial scale. Doing so at sustainable cost.